Welcome to the first episode of Games from the Block, a podcast devoted to blockchain gaming by eGamers.io. My name is George Tsagkarakis, and today our first special guest is Vladimir Tomko from Blockchain Cuties Universe. Vladimir, it's great to have you with us today.
Hey George, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Perfect to have you with the first episode of Games from the Block. To begin with, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you and what you're doing?
I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blockchain Cuties Universe. It's one of the first crypto games on the market. We were released in April 2018, and we've been developing our game and always improving since then. So basically, we are, I believe, one of the 4 or 5 oldest games alive. And the game that we're doing, it's a crypto collectible with a lot of RPG elements and a strategy vibe to it. And we are in a process of converting this game into a full-scale massive multiplayer online strategy game, which the update will be called Wars of Cutieland. So
Well,
that's the game, and that's what we're doing. And before that, I was also doing games actually for the last 16 years. I started out as an indie game developer, a modder for games like Sims. Then I did some shards for games like Neverwinter Nights. And since 2011, I'm working in game development as a business. So I did games to make money, then helped other people to create games that make more money. I worked as a game designer, as a game producer, as an external game producer, as a head of a gaming platform on Russian social network. And when CryptoKitties came out and the new market was born, I understood it quickly and decided that it's time to jump in and try to create something grand in this new opportunistic market.
indeed, the CryptoKitties created a whole revolution in gaming by presenting the non-fungible tokens, and Blockchain Cuties is actually one of the oldest games around. And it's not only one of the oldest games, but it's one of the games that made it. Most of the games from that age, like 2018, do not exist anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true. Around 90-95% of the games just left the market thanks to various reasons, especially the crypto winter of late 2018.
Yeah,
Uh, it made a lot of people to quit.
yeah. Most games were like clones of CryptoKitties, like cash grabs games. But on the other hand, you guys evolved this, and you have a fully complete game now, which is constantly updated and all that stuff. So that's great. You should know that Blockchain Cuties is one of my favorite games.
Thank you,
Um,
George.
Now, for our audience, what is Blockchain Cuties about? What can players can do?
Well, it's a collectible game where you need to build an army of pets, and those pets are non-fungible tokens, and their genome decides which stats would each kitty have. So we have 8 species right now. We recently released rabbits, and each species has different bonuses. Some are good at attacking, some are good at defending, some are good at evasion, and so on. So basically, you create this squad of cuties by breeding or by buying them, by trading, and try to go to different adventure locations where you fight cuties of other players. Whoever wins gets a chance of finding some items on the location. And we have, I believe, around 600 items in the game right now. So you could create different builds, you can create beautiful cuties, and basically try to um, manage your squad or your armies. Uh,
Oh,
the thing with our game is that it's like an RPG game, but you don't control single character or like six characters like it was in Baldur's Gate type of games, but you control as many as you can. So some people have around 14,000 cuties on their account, and they do a lot of account management in order to be effective by playing that game. But
that's a
because
big number.
yeah, that's a very big number. But because it's an open market game and everything that players find or create, you can breed cuties. You are also able to sell it to other players, and some items are in high demand, no matter the situation, like consumables. Some items are in high demand because of their scarcity. Some items are like almost in no demand because there are many items of such types, but it's part of every economy that is not
Yeah, yeah.
a zero sum game. And because we wanted to create a wider funnel during the entrance, so more people could try out blockchain cuties without like paying, we allowed people to monetize their time basically by earning items just by playing the game without paying big amounts of money. And because of the aforementioned scalability thing, where you have not only one character but hundreds or even thousands of characters, these things they scale fast, and it affects the market basically.
Okay. Would you describe the game as play to earn, blockchain Cuties?
In globally, yes, definitely, but because uh, it's a market that doesn't clear itself, items they don't go away, they don't get destroyed by just going to adventures. So people stockpile items, and the amount of items that some of the biggest players have on hands right now is very big. And because of that, people know that these items, and also because of their utility, they don't get uh, really high in price or high in demand, meaning that it's very hard to sell those items. So it's definitely play to earn, uh, especially for players who are playing smart and invest some money. But it's not like play to earn on day one or on week one. The game itself is pretty complex. There are a lot of things in terms of knowledge that player needs to obtain before playing effectively. But when he does that, it is definitely possible to earn by playing blockchain cuties. And we have players that earn starting like from 1,000 euro per month that play regularly, like really active players, and ending with people earning more than $6,000 monthly. It's like
Monthly.
our yeah, but it wasn't like every month. We know about a player who basically did around 3 months of this revenue. It was during last summer, but last summer was a big time of scale for us. We created an event that allowed, not just allowed, that forced players to breed cuties extremely fast. And because of that, many players received hundreds and thousands of cuties. And this was like a stress test for our economy. It showed that without a very strong uh, burning mechanism inside the game, the economy won't be able to handle millions of players. So there need to be a lot of game mechanics that somehow remove the items from the game willingly.
Yeah.
And that was the point when we decided that, not just decided, we've seen that our economy isn't as good as it was planned from the very beginning, and we understood that before we move forward with our MMO strategy update, we need to fix the economy. We need to be sure that if more players come and people, like every active player would have like 10,000 of cuties or something, that it won't like destroy the economy at some point, that it would be manageable, and the more people play, the more demand there would be from different type of items and different type of cuties. So we decided that we need to rebalance the whole thing, and our biggest problem was item market, and we are in the final stage of reshaping it right now.
Okay, so obviously when more players join and if some players acquire like thousands of items, they're going to flood the market with them. So if I play the game and I have like 5 items and I'm trying to sell something, the chances that I'm going to sell are probably very low. So that's why you guys needed to adjust the economy, and this is what you are doing with the Forge update, right?
Yes, it was the first step of several updates that we have in mind. So what Forge essentially allowed to do is it allowed players to convert items into dust and use this dust as a chance to make existing items stronger, to enchant it up to 5 times. And
Perfect.
it allowed us to reduce some of the item clutter inside the game, but it didn't allow us to do it fast enough, and it it didn't scale as at the same pace as people were getting items, especially those people who have thousands of cuties. So the next update of the Forge that is planned is going to be craftable items. So our whole idea is to make a new type of item economy that will be based on what players make. So right now they go to adventures and they get items from there. But what we want to do is to create a lot of recipes that would require dust from converting items into dust, that would require hundreds or tens of items of different value as items, and would require special control items like recipe or like unique ingredients that are acquired very difficultly, and then you would be able to combine it into something completely new, like a new power curve for items. And those items will be created by players themselves. We won't be like selling them, we won't be putting them in stores. They will create this whole new economy on top of existing item economy, and that new economy will be very hungry for existing items. So those stockpiled thousands of items like leather bracelets, I think people have more than hundreds of thousands of them, like
Yeah,
totally,
yeah.
they will be required to create something new. And if that works correctly, and from our calculations it should, we will see the situation that a lot of items, even ones that are totally without value right now, will receive this value, because everything will be required by the next level of item economy. So, and before we do that, that's basically the next big update that we plan to release somewhere in July. We needed to improve the situation with current locations. So right now we have item drop, we have consumable drop, and there are some locations that are just like too good. You go there for consumables, but you also receive a lot of items while you do that, and this devalues some of the items that drop in those locations. So we decided that we need to create utility, and by utility we meant creating item level requirements. So right now there are no utility for lower type of items, because there are better ones. You can get access to them and you can put them on every cutie you have, even if it's level 1. So what this will create essentially is a market for mid-tier items, because if your cutie is like level 5 or level 6, they won't be able to wear the best drop in the game. They will need to become level 10 or like level 12, which is soon going to be released, to be able to put everything they have on them. But players, of course, they don't like it because of our user experience in terms of item removing and item putting on Cuties. And we have like new UI for that in the works, but right now it's just too many actions to do. And when you have like hundreds of cuties, it's just a lot of management, and people don't want to spend their time just equipping or de-equipping cuties. But that's a necessity, this kind of update, because it would create value for items right now, especially for newer players that come into the game.
Yeah, it's essential. It's essential to keep the new players happy because
Yes.
after all, what you have to do is like bring more players in the game. Now I would like to talk about something else. The Walls of Kitlands. This
Hmm.
update is an update that we, Ed personally, and I believe everyone who is playing Blockchain Cuties and not, have been waiting for a long time. This update is supposed to change the whole gameplay of the game and make it like a strategy one.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this? What's the evolution of Blockchain Cuties? Where are you heading with this update?
So, as you said, it's going to make a current game a strategy game, and it's not going to be a new game. It's going to be like a layer, new layer that won't dismiss existing mechanics. So, there would be people who will continue playing blockchain cuties as it is. They will go to locations, they will farm a lot of items, and those items will be required by people who wage war against each other in terms of land. So, it will introduce a big map QD is going to be 4,000 by 4,000 tiles, so it's 16 million tiles in total.
That's a
And
lot.
yeah, and factions that will be present in this world will be represented by blockchains. As of right now, there are four: Tron, Neo, Ethereum, and EOS, and you will be able to pledge alliance to specific blockchain and fight for it by its side, basically.
Oh,
And the whole mechanic will look like that. So you will have a settlement, and initial settlements, if you didn't buy the creator land near the blockchain capital of your faction, uh, then your capital city will be placed on an island. It's basically a virtual space that is located in the upper left, upper right, upper lower left, and lower right corners of the world, and there could be like millions of these islands on each of the side, and you will have like a city builder inside, which will allow you to create a functioning town, which will produce army and resources. So it
city builder. So this is like SimCity or something. Are you building like a civilization game? Is it?
uh,
I'm trying
it's
to figure out in my mind how this is going to be.
if you played games like Forge of Empires or Elvenar or something like that,
Yeah.
the city builder part is going to be very similar in that regard. So you will have to build houses to produce population. Population will produce some kind of tools that are required to build production buildings, and production buildings will produce special goods that are required to progress down the tech tree and go through the ages. We shall all
Oh,
start at like Bronze Age with sort of Greek Roman architecture, ancient Roman.
yes.
Then you will go to Middle Ages and so on and so on. And because our factions in QD land are tied to some sort of epochs. For example, Neo is like Pan-Asian civilization that is uh, based on around 1000 before Christ birth. So it's Asian China, Asian Korea, this type of thing. EOS is more of a fantasy medieval type of civilization. Ethereum is like modern day United States, Europe, and Tron is more like futuristic Jedi type of civilization. And because Cutie Land is basically a fantasy world, then knights will be able to destroy tanks, and people with slings will be able to fight guys with light swords. So, but technologically, it will everybody will go through the ages, starting from Bronze Age, and we'll be adding ages like once every several months. So, in order to build your city to operate effectively, you will need cuties for that. For example, if you have like a lumber mill, then the lumber
You need
mill
to
that
assign cuties.
yeah, you need to put cuties in there. And for example, like bears, they are more resilient. They are good working like in lumber mill or in quarry. While if you have like a university where you produce some kind of knowledge points, it would be wiser to put foxes there and so on. And because the cities will consist of like it will be like they will be multi-purposeful. For example, you're creating a town where you gather wood, a lot of wood, and majority of the population of that city will be bears because bears are effective at cutting wood. So they would require you to appoint a governor to govern them. And for example, if you have a fox governor, your bears won't be happy because they want their representatives. They would work like half of their potential when a fox will be governing them. But if you put a
So
bear,
you are mixing politics in there, right?
a little bit. It's not going
Yeah.
to be very deep, but it will provide different bonuses. So governors will be able to boost cities, but in order to do that, they will need to be present there. Uh, then there will be armies, and as as long as you progress through the tech tree, you will be able to unlock different technologies which allow you to increase the army size or new unit combinations. So how it is thought that, for example, you want to create a footman, and footman is a medieval technology for infantry. So you need to go to the medieval age, like early medieval age, unlock the footman, and then you have like different cuties. You have, say, you have 1,000 cuties, and your current barracks that you've built in the city allows you to recruit only 60 footmen. So you will have to uh, choose which 60 cuties will become footmen. They will be assigned to becoming footmen, and when they do, you will need to equip them with items. You can use your existing items. For example, they are equipped in very high-end gear in current Blockchain Cuties universe, but uh, it will be like cheaper to produce or buy specific footman gear. It's like a set of items, for example, footman set. So
Okay.
those sets will be produced from existing items. You will have to uh, communicate with other players for market, buy something, sell something, or you will be able to produce it from the resources like from the lumber we've spoke earlier, for example. And when you create an army, you would need to be able to appoint a general QD in order for this army to move on the map. And when you have this army, for example, you have like footmen, you have cavalry, you have archers, you have some people with siege, you will be able to place them accordingly in your tactical view. For example, you would put footmen on your first line, you would put archers on the second line, knights also on the first line, and siege craft on the last line.
So
And
strategy elements.
yeah, sort of strategy. And those strategy elements will be added as like the last iteration. At the very beginning, we will try to create combats without tactics because tactics, well, it requires a lot of programming, and it will be there, but it will be like one of the last iterations. And the whole idea with Wars of Cutie Land is to be able to deliver it like step by step. So the next season that we are going to do will be the first iterations. So islands will be present there, probably governors will have a role there, and our current combat system will get reworked. We've already showed it on our podcast, so we will introduce multi-cutie fights. Basically, it's going to be two
Okay.
lines, one on the left, one on the right, a stack of cuties on both sides, and like they will fight one on one. But when one cutie get defeated on the one side, another cutie from the stack on that side will take its place. So it will be like the first iteration of Wars of Qt and hopefully we'll be able to show you like how the map is moving, how the buildings look like also in the summer. So we also started out. We wanted to do Wars of Qt on Unity at the very beginning, but
Oh, so you're building in Unity, right?
no, not right now. We did a lot of tech research, we did prototype, and it worked great on mobile devices, but right now we have more than 70% of people who are playing on desktop and like they don't want to move. The experience on desktop is like faster. So we decided that we need an engine that works great on both mobile and on web. And right now we are in the final steps of testing Cocos 2D engine. Right now
Okay.
it seems very okay in terms of FPS that we get. So probably we're going to use Cocos. Well, we're
Cocos
like
has their own token, I think, right?
yes, they do,
They took
but
some steps over blockchain
yeah,
recently.
yeah, they have this Cocos blockchain expedition, but it's not about like they're talking right now. We didn't like dive deep into their blockchain stuff. It's just about the engine that is multi-platformal, so you can use it on native iOS, native Android apps. It works fine, fast, and a lot of. I believe even Puzzle Dragons was made on Cocos, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a good engine and it works well in the web as well. And because we
Oh,
don't want to ditch our existing audience, we want to make their experience pleasant in the first place.
okay, great. Uh, that all sounds fascinating. Like I'm really excited about what your guys are building. So I have a quick question for you. I have, let's say, 30 cuties, okay? I can fight with the big guys who have like 1,000 cuties. Uh, are we going to be able to build alliances, for example? Can people build a clan and join forces all together?
Yes, in Wars of Cutie Land, this is definitely going to be a part of the whole economical structure. And you'll be able to basically not just you'll be able, the end funnel will look like that. You will be joining a clan just when you finish the tutorial. So if you're not in the clan before that, you'll be able to join some kind of a newbie clan at the very beginning. But in the end, yes, there's going to be uh, like I would say three types of politics and political relationships in Wars of Cutie Land. So first one is going to be between factions. The thing is that uh, at the moment we have four factions, and you will always will have to be at war with at least one of the factions. Uh, no, no, you will have to be at war with two of the factions. You could be
Okay.
neutral with one of the faction, and you could have alliance with one of the faction. But for example, let's say you're playing on Tron and we are playing on Tron, and we are in different clans. So our clans could be allies or could be enemies inside one faction. So we could fight each other. But if, for example, we meet in a no man's land, a disputed territory where Ethereum forces and Tron forces fight, like, and we are into clans that are enemies. So when Ethereum forces will enter the same location where we are. Uh, Basically, we will be fighting against them and against each other. So
So we are talking about internal wars.
Yes, there are
And
going to be external
yeah.
wars that are defined by the kings of the factions, and internal wars in terms of clans inside the faction. But external wars or external politics will be able to override the internal ones if need be.
Well, that
So
sounds great. I'm an Age of Empires veteran, so wars is my thing, and this sounds amazing. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we'll
So,
be able to
so
deliver it the way I've told you, and people will like it because politics is very important part of user generated content. Because what we want to do in in an essence is to create a sandbox type of experience with this world where people can create the political content themselves. They can take land, build cities, destroy something, and if some major effects, like not effects, events will occur on one or another, like land plot, it will be written to blockchain as a part of history. So, for example, you're waging war against your friend on some sort of land plot that belongs to Neo, and you have very big armies. And we have like a thresholder in our event manager that understands that at this point your armies are like epically big, so we need to record this event. And when the fight is over, there will be a string in blockchain that would state that George was fighting his friend. George was waging war for Ethereum. His friend was waging war for Tron. Like George won, and he left like this many troops alive. But we will also allow players to write the historical events on the land plots to blockchain themselves. So pay the transaction fee. For example, if you have very small armies, but for you this event was of subjectual value, you'll be able to record it in the history of this land plot. And if after 100 years some guy decides to build a city on this land plot, this event where you fight your friend will be a part of this land's history. So
the
he will be
history.
able to see it. Yes.
Right, exciting. That's great. That's great. So I would like to change the topic of the discussion. You recently got approved in the Samsung
Yeah.
wallet, right? The Samsung Galaxy Store, which is basically a DApp free browser and all that stuff there. Have you seen any new players coming from there? Does it help you retain users?
Uh, it doesn't help us to retain users because it's more of like a user acquisition channel. Yes, we've seen some players installing the game and trying it out, but because this whole event was created by Samsung when it doesn't have like the needed infrastructure in terms of the ability to buy crypto inside their app. Actually, they just announced it yesterday that they've partnered with Gemini and will be able to allow their users to buy crypto directly from Samsung phones, which is very good. But
Yeah, that's good news.
during our launch, they didn't have this ability. So people who wanted to get into crypto were left on their own. So they were using like Samsung third-party wallet. It's free to create it, but it doesn't have any crypto, and that's basically the reason why not a lot of people were able to pay because I
Yeah, they
think
didn't have access to
they
crypto.
didn't have access, they didn't have the knowledge, so
Yeah,
um,
the
it,
truth is it's very hard to acquire crypto nowadays. Like I've talked to a lot of my friends about crypto and they were all like, I'm Googling all day how to buy crypto and most of them don't even make it.
yeah,
It's an
exactly.
issue. It's an
And
issue for the gaming also, for the blockchain games. You can expect people to download MetaMask and read for a week how MetaMask works and how Ethereum works in order to start playing a game.
That's true. And the thing is that there is another issue for that is that basically you can, if you're as big as Samsung and you can deal with different legal stuff, then you can obtain like a license and allow to do KYC on your end to create this process streamlined. And I believe
Yeah,
Samsung will do that at some point. But that was like a pioneer move for them. They just probably wanted to see how it goes. What's the percentage of their audience like to use the crypto and so on. So mm, and they did it this event without the preparations in terms of um, okay, they have this separate wallet called Samsung Blockchain Wallet, and
yes,
it has a store like a regular dApp store, the same that we've seen in many dApps, in many dApp
like Google
wallets.
Play and stuff.
Yes,
Yes,
sort of, but it's totally isolated from Samsung Galaxy Store. So you need to download this app, and basically, if you're not in specific regions, you need to download an APK to be able to use that. So there is like small percentage of people who have that, but when they decided to do this campaign, they didn't allow people to enter the dApp section inside the Samsung Galaxy store, which they could have because basically it's the same engine. If, for example, you enter the Samsung blockchain wallet store and then hit back button, you will be thrown into the general Samsung Galaxy store. But there is no way to be retained if you didn't install the app. So uh, the technique how Samsung put the people inside the app is basically just through banners. So you are able to find the app in the search bar, and you're able to click it during the promotional campaign, during the featuring. But there weren't like any persistent dApps section inside the store, which um, is not helping the conversion rate of the users because, well, even if they decided, okay, I'm going to click this banner in the evening, and for example in the evening they can't find this banner, so they can't enter blockchain gaming section. But
yeah.
I think judging by the fact that Samsung partnered with Gemini, they are still considering this whole blockchain thing, dApp thing, as a potentially very perspective direction, and they're going there, and that is very great. Hopefully, we will see some actions from Samsung in the future that would drive us towards the mass adoption faster and faster.
Well, Samsung has the power to do this.
That's definitely true.
Well, yeah, they have like billions of devices. Most of my smartphones were Samsung. So definitely they can reach out to millions, if not billions, of users. So you guys have a multi-chain game, right? You are on Neo, you are on Neos, on Ethereum, on Tron. Will blockchain cuties come to other blockchains also? And all these blockchains, did they help you integrate them? Did they provide any support? How hard is it to make a game like Blockchain Cuties on the blockchain today?
Well, we are on 4 blockchains right now. The fifth one is probably coming in the next 2 weeks. So,
Any
oh,
any hint on this?
yes, I can say that their color is blue.
Color is blue.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So I think we will make an announcement very soon because we're right now in the middle of aligning our visions of how we approach that. And yes, we usually work with blockchains that are very dApp centric and that help us to develop, provide the uh, documentation. And as you know, we are usually one of the pioneers, so we jump into the race where when not many other developers are in the
Yeah,
space, or like none at all. So it allows us to receive some benefits, but it also brings some problems that we need to solve. So the benefits are that if you're the third game on the blockchain and they're just entering the dApp space, then the majority of the promotional materials of the exposure will be covering you, because you are like an entry point, a pilot
yeah,
product.
you will get a lot of promotion and exposure
Yes,
if
yes,
you are the first
exactly.
one. Yeah,
Uh, and that's a good point, very good point. But for example, if you are entering a space like, or a blockchain that didn't release its mainnet, for example, there is a big risk that you will do the pricing wrong. For example, you thought that it's a more lucrative audience, but it turns out that there are a majority of people don't want to pay. They're just mostly for idea. And when you do those moves, basically it's not that like fast to revert them, because you calculate everything, calculate the economy, and it's like a blind shot always. Then there is the thing that the blockchain itself at some point might not be like interested in developing the dApp space after the initial launch. Maybe they're just doing that because it's in their roadmap. It's also a risk, because we are more interested in a long-term relationships, in blockchains that would support us and we would support them, try to bring our audience to them and try to promote them as like pioneers in the industry. So we have at the moment four cases. We released on Ethereum, where everybody were releasing their games at that time, because only Ethereum supported smart contracts. So
yeah,
we didn't work with Ethereum as like with partners in any way. We just did a game, used the
yeah, yeah,
existing documentation like everybody else. Then in October 2018. EOS added the ability to release smart contracts on their mainnet, and EOS Nights appeared, and several like Ponzi schemes games followed, and then I believe we were the third or a second game, but unfortunately we didn't get traction on EOS, so very few players do play our game. There might be many reasons to that.
EOS has their own problems with the CPU and all that stuff. Unfortunately,
Yeah, but
they do have a lot of problems.
I totally agree, but there are games that are popular with EOS, and usually those are like fungible token based games,
Yeah,
like like for example prospectors. They have their coin, you mine it, everything else is like server based.
yeah,
But
but they don't have non-fungible tokens, right?
yeah, I think prospectors don't have. I'm not sure. Like those types of games are very good with EOS audience. It means that maybe they understand these types of mechanics better than non-fungible ones, or they just don't like it. Then I don't know how it is right now. Probably a lot better. But during our launch on EOS, we made a mistake with wallets, and we hit the wall of distribution. So the mistake with wallet was this: we estimated the time needed to implement a scatter at that time, and the time needed to make the functionality of EOS wallet of scatter in our own wallet, and it was basically the same time. But if we were using our own wallet, we could allow people to use Ethereum on their wallets for EOS wallet creation, because at that point in time it costed around $5 to create an EOS account. So we decided that we would create like a linear curve and people would convert easier. But we didn't put it into our mind that majority of EOS audience in October 2018 were Chinese people, and in China, like in 2016 or 15, they had this event where a lot of exchanges closed, and people that were like keeping funds on custodian exchange wallets lost a lot of those funds. So Chinese people were very like wary about the solutions, wallet solutions on the market, and they didn't use those that they knew nothing about. And we had like for them some kind of shady wallet that they've never heard about, and they didn't even try to use it. So they thought probably that it's some kind of shady stuff. It's not scatter. So we lost this momentum, lost a lot of money in our initial EOS launch campaign. It took us a month and a half to, I believe, no, a little bit less, less than a month to attach scatter. But then we had hit another problem, which was the community distribution. So in EOS, there were like 21, I believe, block producer and that were taking part in consensus, and each block producer was nurturing its own community. So it was pretty hard to do a global outreach on EOS. You need to work with different block producers and try to uh, ask to allow them to
Yeah.
promote your game in their communities, and it wasn't very fast. But with Tron, everything went super smooth. We were the first game on Tron. We did receive a lot of love and a lot of promotion from Tron sources and Justin Sun himself. And right now, more than 52%, I believe 54 right now, of our audience are Tron players. So because it,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, that's good.
it's cheaper. It's basically same as Ethereum, but it's a lot cheaper to play on Tron, and there are no such situations like right now. The transaction on Ethereum, how much? 60 cents or 15 cents?
Yeah, they're very very expensive right now. Ethereum games are unplayable, to be honest.
Yeah,
Can I take my cuties from Ethereum to Tron, for example? Can I migrate them?
we have this functionality. It doesn't work with Tron. It works with Ethereum and EOS, and we released it together with the launch of EOS. But at the time, we decided to not release it because if we would do that, a majority of people, as we thought, would migrate their Ethereum cuties to EOS, and we wouldn't be able to create like a sustainable but separate economy on EOS with like specific cuties, specific gene sets, and we decided to postpone the launch for 2 months. And as of then, we didn't update this functionality. So basically, with the current state of the game, I think it requires some work. But I don't know whether we need to introduce it to the game even right now. So because the thing is that if we would allow to do that, there would be some issues. For example, if you have like a Qt number 55 on Ethereum, and this
Yeah.
ID is important to you, you won't receive the same ID on EOS. If we migrate
Yeah,
your
yeah.
Qt, we will take away this 55th Qt, we will like destroy it, and we will create a copy on EOS or Tron, and it will be like Qt 52075, for example.
Yeah,
So
the IDs are already taken there.
yeah, exactly. And if we do that, we basically need to take some kind of money for that migration. But I don't know if existing players, will be willing to pay that money to migrate. But we can at some point speak with our community when majority of more important stuff is going to be done and ask them like to vote whether they need this feature or not.
Okay, I understand. So, speaking about the community, Blockchain Cuties was always a community-driven game, right? And gamers, they always want that little extra. For example, if I play a game and the dev asks me, "Hey, what do you want in the game?" I'll probably tell him that I want the game to be easier, to be able to farm a lot more easier, and all that stuff. Is this a healthy approach to listen to the community and to what the community says to develop the game? What's your
Uh,
experience here?
it's not that like simple. So we don't do exactly what community says us. We never did. We there are like situations where we can do this way or this way, and both outcomes are okayish. And in such situations, we always ask community like what they want. But for example, community members, they are not into numbers as we are. They don't calculate. They don't have all the data that we have. So we make more weighted results. But some of the things are still very important to consult about. So right now, for example, we are in the same situation you just described. So we were almost ready to release an update. Technically, it was ready, but it wasn't properly balanced. And community found out those things, and after that like event, basically we did 3 or 4 iterations of rebalancing the numbers. And even right now, community thinks that the current proposed balance is bad, and there is just like no reason to do that. So they are against the level requirements in majority, and they don't like how we've put the rarity system in. So there are some issues to that, but right now it's the exactly same situation that you've described in the question. Basically,
Yeah, yeah. Players want things to be easier, but that's not always the case, right? You need to make the game to balance it, to be adjustable.
yes, but in defense of our community, I can say that they are very keen on like Excel numbers. They do calculate stuff. They have their own like tables, so they are in the nose of the balance. In some cases, even better than we are. And not of all people are eager to uh, ask to make something easier. Some of the people, a lot of the people actually understand that the most important thing is to make everything balanced and introduce new users, because if the game grows, the market grows, and the existing players that have accumulated a lot of wealth will be able to benefit from that in the first place. So they do understand that, and they help a lot. But with because it's a blockchain game right now, and they have like a lot of items, we don't want to create drastical changes without consulting them, because it would affect them, and it would affect basically their decisions that they've made previously, because they didn't know that the circumstances would change, and they've invested money and time before that. And because of that, we don't want to like change everything very fast. And how we see it, we need to be sure that at least majority of people understand why we do this change, and they understand the consequences, so they won't get screwed up by the things that we introduce. But there were some things that community uh, especially at the very beginning didn't understand and didn't think are going to be huge. For example, our forge update with ability to dust items wasn't welcomed very well, I would say, during the release. But
Yeah,
now
it's obvious. Yeah,
yeah, but now everybody seems to be happy.
yeah, because they experienced the change. They saw that the market is flooding with items, that a change was needed, and now they are okay with it.
Hmm. That's true. And there is another very important thing that we understood. So, because majority of players are not whales, they are okay to work with very small numbers. So, for example, if we sell some items for like $10 or $60, and similar items in the game that are not being sold but are dropped in locations are found in big numbers, then players, they usually even don't care that the anchor price is like $60. They sell it for 5 cents, 2 cents, the less the better. And this also creates a very specific, peculiar situation that, for example, our part of revenue model is to take commission from all the sales, and we take 4% commission. But if it's like 2 cents or 4 cents in dollars, then basically we earn nothing.
Yeah,
Uh,
you get
and
nothing. That's right.
yeah, and the thing is that this whole super low price situation is good for new players, but it's not very good for the whole economy because basically trades happen, but they're like selling very cheap items, and when you do that, you don't like get you don't earn by playing the game. Well, you do, but if like you earn $5 per month by selling those
These items, yeah.
yeah 100 items for 5 cents, then it's not good for you. But community and the market has the power to do that because it's an open market. If player wants to trade on lower price, and he can do that. And basically this is what happening, and that's why we're also trying to improve the item economy to create more demand, more utility, and create mechanics that eat existing items in big numbers, um, to increase this price range so people would be able to get richer by playing blockchain cuties faster, and the market would be more healthier like overall.
Okay, so I have two questions left for you. The
Mhm.
first one is about the Qt token. Are we going to see any utility with the word of Qt in last update?
Yes, definitely. So basically, it is going to be the Blood of Wars of Qt update. It's going to be used in a lot of trade, in a lot of building creation, in army management, in politics, and we're going to introduce the tokenomics near those iterations where Qtcoin is going to be receiving a lot more love. So right now it's just a means of payments for very specific items, and before we introduce it in Words of Cutie Land, it's going to stay the same. Basically, we don't have any plans to change its functionality. We will add more positions to be able to purchase for cute coins. Right now, there aren't many.
Will this the Qt coin will be available across all chains? Because it's an Ethereum token. That's why I'm asking.
It's a very good question, and it has lots of ifs. So you see, if we plan to introduce it to other exchanges later on. The thing why we don't do that right now is because listing on exchanges, on big exchanges, isn't free. It's actually pretty expensive, and in order for your token to be viable for traders and people who are not playing your game, you need to do a lot of stuff. You need to do a lot of marketing, do a lot of announcements, have good public records, create new tech. So be very public about that. That's number one. You need to probably do um, some kind of market making at the very beginning, because it needs some support, and people who always watch different token pairs need to be able to spot it. And then the thing is that there are different price points on exchanges. That's number one. There is an arbitrage opportunity, but that's okay. But if we do Qtcoin on different chains, basically we will have to list that Qtcoin several times on each of the exchange because those are physically different tokens, and
Okay.
that's very expensive. So
Yeah,
if
it is expensive
so
to list a
probably
token.
how we will do that is only one type of token will be tradable, probably Ethereum one. But in the game, we will allow people to convert those tokens to Neo tokens, to Tron tokens, to EOS tokens, like for free. And game will
Okay.
be able to work with different blockchain tokens. But if you want to trade them on exchange, those would have to be Ethereum ones.
Okay. Well, in the end, everything will become interoperable.
Uh,
So yeah,
Probably yes, but it's a matter of years, I believe.
yeah, it is, it is. So, and speaking about years, my last question, which I always ask when I do interviews and apparently now in podcasts, where do you see blockchain gaming in 5 years from now?
I see blockchain gaming as a very big industry, something like mobile gaming in 2012. So majority of the games in 5 years will have blockchain implemented into them. So proof of ownership and scarcity will be a common thing, and many of the people will not like treat them as blockchain games. It will just become popular and be part of the gaming industry. Same as with internet dating services. As you remember, like back in
Yeah,
2000s, they had this internet prefix. Right now, they just don't use it.
yes,
It's just dating service, and you use an app. But basically, it still happens through internet. So I think maybe not in 5 years this blockchain prefix, but in like 7, 10 years is definitely going to be gone, because in the regular gaming, um, we have end user license agreements, and we have paragraphs that state that you don't own the things that you buy, you just rent it. And this is something that you don't see in real estate, you don't see in car business, you don't see in clothes. If you buy something, it's yours. You can burn it, you can tear it apart.
true.
Yeah, and
But
this is
but in
something,
games,
yeah, not in games. And basically, it's just very natural to add that to games because you have it mostly everywhere, except like subscription model businesses like Spotify when you subscribe to music library, or like Netflix where you subscribe. But if you buy something like really like if you play I don't know like Rise of Kingdoms, and you buy some kind of hero, you pay for that exact hero. It's not a subscription model. I paid for this hero, I want to be able to do whatever I want with that. I want to be able to gift it to George, for example, or to put it in my table because it's mine.
yeah, you paid for it. That,
Exactly.
that, that's a big issue with games nowadays. I mean, if you try to sell your hero, for example, to someone else, you might get banned. I've been playing MMORPGs like Lineage and World of Warcraft for the majority of my life, and I've got nothing in return except good memories.
Yeah, exactly. You just pay for emotions, and here you pay
Yeah,
for
and subscriptions. I was paying subscriptions all the time.
yeah, yeah. And I was playing Need for Speed World. It's like a racing MMO game,
Yeah,
and I had more than uh, it was our local currency that is not existent anymore, Latvian lats. So around 600, 650 euros I've invested into that game for a course of 2 years. And
yeah.
then they just like closed, and all my cards, all my investments were gone. And that's it.
Yeah, imagine having those cars and be able to sell them.
Exactly. At the very least, I would be able to have like my own responsibility to sell them or not to sell them. Like if I even wouldn't be able to sell them, I would still had the chance, and I didn't.
Yeah, they will belong to you. At least get your money back or something. Great, Vladimir. Thank you a lot for this conversation. I really enjoyed it and I believe our audience also did.
Thank you for having me, George, and thanks eGamers for hosting this event. Hopefully that it's just the launch of the podcast thing, and you'll be doing it like once a week or 2 times a month.
Well, life is busy, Vladimir, but we are used to it. Like anything else we do, hopefully this will get established. Thank you guys for listening to our very first podcast. If you haven't played yet Blockchain Cuties, go check them out, try the game. The next update will change the whole landscape, and see you in the next podcast.